Welcome to Shotgun Sports USA. I'm your host, Justin Barker, and I talk to shotgun shooters from all over the world in every discipline, as well as coaches, gun clubs, target setters, vendors, and industry-leading companies that fuel the sport. Check us out online at shotgunsportsusa.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. Shotgun Sports USA is powered by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Also brought to you by Ultimate Shooting Accessories, Rick Hemingway's Promatic Trap Cells, Sound Gear Phantom, Comp and Choke, Clay Shooter Supply, Clay Target Vision, and Cole Gunsmithing. My guest on the show today creates games that involve real guns, real ammunition, real smoke, and real targets, with a little noise added in. He is the creator of Five Stand and the popular game Make a Break. He's a very interesting guy with a lot of history in the sport and some great ideas. Please welcome to the show, Raymond Forman. Raymond, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Justin. It's a pleasure to meet you finally. I've been listening to your podcast for a while now.
Yeah, well, good. You know, I got an email from you. We were talking about Ed Preckle, who we had on last week, and I thought, well, this is a great time to get Raymond on now, and we'll just talk to the guy who actually created all this stuff and get your ideas on, you know, why you started it and where you have it going in the future.
Right. Well, it's much appreciated.
Yeah. So you got into clay target sports really early. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how this early involvement helped you in your career.
Well, I did. I have to go all the way back to, I was born in Scotland, and you can probably tell that. But born in Scotland and went to work on a farm as a youngster and basically picked up a shotgun there and went bird hunting. Then a friend introduced me to clay target shooting over there, and before I knew it, I was, shooting in competitions, got on the national team, wanted to try for the Olympics, and then ended up immigrating to Canada. And because I had shot at a sort of a high level, I started shooting a little bit in Canada, and again looking at the Olympic ideal, but decided not to do that because I had gone to school in Canada. My first love was outdoors and animals, so I went to school to become a wildlife biologist, and ended up as a field wildlife biologist working with grizzly bears and black bears for a number of years. But the Hunter Education Department was run by the Fish and Wildlife Division, who I worked for, and they found out I had extensive knowledge of shooting and asked me to critique their firearms programs. So I went up to one of the facilities, and they were using trap and skeet. And I said, now remember, this is back in 1983, and I said, so why are you using trap and skeet to teach kids how to kill a duck? Why are you not using sporting clays? And they said, what's sporting clays? So I put on a demonstration for them, excuse me, and I arranged some traps around a trap and skeet layout, and there was 5 children from a school class came to try this out in the demonstration. There were 5 children at a time, and so I was working with one, then moved to the next one, that went round in a circle with this, and I thought, hey, this looks like a pretty good game. And so really, Five Stand was born from that, or the idea behind Five Stand was born from that. So it was really a set of fortunate circumstances, not sort of sheer brilliance. It wasn't an epiphany or something. And so that's where it developed. And then somebody said to me, really you should look at taking this a step further. So I spent about 3 years developing it, coming up. The original Five Stand had 3 different skill levels. And level 1 had, I think Ed explained it, 5 singles per stand, and then 2 was 3 singles and a double, and skill level 3, which you shoot now today, is 2 doubles and a single. But the big difference I had was that you didn't know where the targets were coming from. I mean, yes, you could see the traps, and they all crossed in front of you, so it wasn't an eye test. I mean, everything was right there. Mm-hmm. But everybody got the same targets on the same stands, but just in a different sequence. So it made it more like hunting, and it made it more sort of fun. And I was very, very keen to get people shooting for fun. Having shot sort of at close to the Olympic level, I knew the dedication and the strict regime you need for that. And I thought, we need to put fun back into shooting, because very, very few people eventually try for the Olympics or try to at that level in any of the sports. So I thought, well, if we make it fun, it might be better. On top of that, as a biologist and having a sort of a love of the outdoors and the natural world and the environment, I thought, well, one of the big things about this is the footprint is much smaller. So now we've got lead and wads and debris and stuff on our trap and skeet layout in that small size compared to sporting clays, of course. And now I'm just overlaying it on that. On top of that, trap shooting was still the primary type of shooting that was done at that time. Again, we're still in the 80s. And I thought, well, because the rotation is similar to, it's the same as trap, maybe trap shooters will want to try it, and that means that it'll be, successful and it'll grow much quicker. Mm-hmm. But I really wasn't getting anywhere with it, and so I was invited down to the U.S. An Olympic shooter by the name of Susan Natras, who's a very, very famous lady Olympic shooter. She introduced me to Dan Carlisle, and so I went down to see Dan. Dan actually came up to Canada, fell in love with the game, and introduced me to other people in the U.S., so I started going down to the U.S. I helped out with the NSCA in their formative years, and ended up, they took on the game. They wanted it with menus, but I wrote their manual on 5-stand. Harry Isaac, who Ed mentioned, the Autosporter fellow, he and I, we devised the truck program to get the game out. And on top of that, we... Because 5-stand, the way we were doing it, required quite a bit of work to figure out who got the same targets and different targets and the different numbers. We thought, this is almost impossible. We sat down, and to do one game of 5 shooters shooting the 25 targets, it took about 2.5 hours just to make sure that everybody got the same targets in a different order. Sounds crazy, I know. But we met a fellow who was involved in computers. Again, this is now 1985, I believe it was, 1986, something like that. And computers were in their very early stages. But he had just developed the POS system, which is the point of sale hardware. So that was cash drawers. Mm-hmm. And at checkouts. And we told him what we needed, and we needed, up to 8 traps in this system. And he said, so basically you want me to open 8 cash drawers at the same time. And so that was how the system was born out of that. And it spawned an industry around the world, because there are now many, many control mechanisms out there. And so that was the start of 5-stand. Of course, with the known sequences, with the menus, you don't need a sophisticated mechanism like that. So, but that was it. So, I mean, that put me on the path to wanting to produce games that were fun. They were never meant to be serious or regimented, because I had done that. And I knew if we were going to grow the sport and get new people into the sport, they had to be attracted using fun games like this.
Yeah. So you wanted to create fun and not some competition like there already were.
That's right. That's right. And again, we've taken that idea, and well, right now, I mean, my next game, of course, was Make a Break, and that's what Ed is working on right now. But all the time I had developed Five Stand, we were thinking, how do we make this thing for television? And so I knew that Five Stand, like trap, skeet, sporting clays, I mean, even traps and skeet shooters don't watch trap and skeet that attentively,
Right.
So how do we get it on television? So I spent a bit of time looking at what makes other professional sports successful. And they all have similar attributes like colors, numbers, short plays, tactics, playing field, audience participation. But the big thing was audience. They have an audience. So how do we make it interesting to watch? So I decided to come up with the colors and the numbers and the playing field you see Ed with. And let's face it, it is attractive. It does look good. And so I then thought, okay, we need to take it one step further here. But I bumped into a fellow who's a Hollywood producer, and we were going to do a television series. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, I wrote a television series that, with his inspiration, by the way, and his name is Russell Jones, and it was to be with the military, the U.S. military, the different arms of the U.S. military. And it's sort of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, all competing against one another. We got a lot of good feedback from that. But then, as Ed explained, we were at the short show, and Russell just took it upon himself to say, there's all these hoops we have to go through. We'd be quicker off just making a movie. So here's this whole idea behind the movie. So that has since grown, and in talking with Russell, we were just chatting about the influence of a movie. And he said, well, you look at the Transformer movies, they're basically a 2-hour commercial for General Motors. So this will be a 2-hour commercial for, the sport. Make a Break plays a huge role in the movie. And of course, it's the first movie about clay target shooting. It doesn't have clay target shooting in it. It's actually about it. So I feel that is a big jump forward.
Yeah.
And so that is going to inspire an awful lot of people. And not only that, Justin, it's going to expose the sport to a whole new lot of people. Now, in my research, and I'm used to research, being in the sciences, we know how to look at numbers. And we looked at it. About 10% of the population in North America shoot or have shot. About 10% will never shoot. They're the anti-gun people that just don't like guns, period. But that leaves roughly 80% who have never shot, never been exposed to it really. But again, in our research, we found that about 40% of that 80% would like to try it. Now, if you do the arithmetic of over 300 million people in the United States, even if only 10 or 15% of that 40% tried it, we'd double the size of the sport. So this is now, I'm thinking, okay, we're now looking at movies and games, and we're moving away from the tournament aspect and saying, what do we do next? So the program I've been for the last 5 years. I've been working on a big program, and it's really to come up with a series of games. And so we have Five Stand, we have Make a Break. Actually, the very first game I created is actually going to be the fourth one. It's a bit like a Star Wars movie, the start and the middle. Yeah. So, yeah. And then they move stuff around. And so that's what I'm working with right now. And then I do have a third game all ready to go. And it's all going to be run through a very large website. And again, it's the video game mentality. Video games use joystick controllers and monitors, and they're all digital, whereas we're going to use real guns, real ammunition, real targets, and real noise and smoke and recoil. And again, so we now have this imagery of the sport, of this sport that people haven't tried. And it should have the wow factor, but also it has to look good as well, which is why I've been pushing for people to say, hey, look, Make or Break looks like Make or Break for a reason, and that reason is to make it attractive. And I want everyone to be able to say, when we are building the audience, you can see at Ed's events, the audiences are starting to build, but that's primarily in the shooting world. Once we get out of that world, and once the movie generates the interest, when these people come along and they've seen Make or Break, then they're going to expect Make or Break to look like Make or Break. And if there are facilities that are not doing it like that, then it's just going to confuse the audience. And one of the analogies I like to use is if I was to say, hey, Justin, do you fancy a game of tennis? And you said, yeah, I'll play tennis with you. So I take you to a hayfield and the grass is 2 feet high, the net's just peeping over the top, and there's no lines. You'd say, this isn't a tennis court. Why would you say that? Because you know what a tennis court is supposed to look like.
Right.
Well, using that, Make or Break is supposed to look like this. It's not a hayfield, and it does have boundaries, and it does have a platform, a stage, and it does have the cubes. It's all imagery, and I'm all about improving the image of the sport. And if we can get more people into the sport, then it helps give us that support, because we know that there are elements out there that don't want us to shoot, don't want us to have guns. And so I think with having more members, more participants doing this, not only is it going to help the industry, the producers, the manufacturers, but also the associations, the publications, the online retailers. Everyone is going to benefit if this thing grows. Plus, more money will go into the industry, into the sport. And that brings us to what Ed and I are working on now, is building a big circuit, a big tour. And again, with having more money in the sport, that puts more money into there. And let's face it, the manufacturers benefit. They benefit because more people playing, then there's more people buying.
So you're talking about you said a circuit or a tour that you and Ed are working on. What would this circuit travel around? How does this circuit work?
Very similar to what Ed's doing right now.
Okay, but so people would show up to the regional and shoot Make or Break, and then they would get points, I'm assuming, and then they'd go to the next regional and get points, and at the end of the year, there's a champion.
And integrate that in with standalone events. We are now on the verge. We have some interest from some people who actually say, look, we want standalone Make or Break events. And because of the sponsors that we're hearing about, then we may have the money to be able to do that.
Okay, so you're talking about when you register for a shoot, you have to register for Make or Break.
For the Make or Break events, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is we're working quite a bit with SCTP, and because the movie, of course, is about SCTP, and so Ed is closely working with Tom Wanderer, who I think has been on your show, so we're just looking at ways of using Make or Break. And again, we're using Make or Break at the moment because that's what we have out there. But as the other games come on stream, then it'll be an entire package. And that first controller I spoke to you about was called Bird Brain. And we're now on sort of Bird Brain 2 or 3, I think it is now. And it's basically a digital version of Ed. But it doesn't have his panache for telling you if you've hit the targets or not, Yeah,
so Bird Brain was the first thing you created.
It was the thing that I created to run 5-stand.
Right. Yeah. So people hear Bird Brain, they might want to know what that is. That's the device he created to run and pull the targets for 5 stand in a different sequence for every stand, correct?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
And it had another game in it, and that other game is the first thing that I actually created, and which is now I'm developing into a bona fide game. So that'll be, so far we have 4 games in the program, and it'll be, a big event will be you'll shoot all 4 games.
Now, you're talking about this first or fourth game that's coming out. What is can you tell me the name of it?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. Can you tell me what it may be about, or not at this time?
No, not at this time. I don't mean to dangle carrots here, folks, but
I get it.
It's just that, hey, all things in good time, I can assure you. One of the things that we have done this year, Justin, is we finally put together some information on social media. Of course, I'm a bit older, and social media is not my thing, but it was Ed's son, Owen, who said, you really should be on social media because all the kids are on their phones. People are on their phones. They want to know what's happening. So in May this year, I did a deep dive into social media, and my wife, Dawn, she helped me. In fact, she knew a lot more about it than I did or ever will know, I guess. And so I create all the stuff, and she makes sure it gets up on the right place. But the feedback was incredible. The number of views, the number of people now following us in just 2 short months was amazing. Mind you, I had no idea it was so much work. Yeah. Had I known that, I would have said, hey, Owen, enough of the good ideas.
Yeah.
But now we're saying, we should have done this five years ago, but, that's looking back, and we want to look forward. And as a good friend, Ralph Gates once said, never look back. The only thing you'll get from that is a stiff neck. So we'll keep moving forward.
Yeah. Raymond, I've heard you say that shooters are maxed out in this sport. Tell me what you mean by that.
What I mean by that is we want the sport to grow, and I feel that we've got some momentum here, but we want the sport to grow, and when you think on it, if you look at the numbers, the recruitment into the sport is just about the same as the retirement out of the sport. And so the numbers really don't, jump up. A lot of people try it, but the trick is getting them to take it up as a sport. Excuse me. What I'm thinking is that they're already shooting at their maximum. We may be headed into a financial crisis. We don't know. If that does happen, of course, then there will be some suffering. Friends of mine in the UK, they're already being hit by that. And I'm talking about, a couple of the major clubs over there. They're really struggling at the moment. So if that comes, then that will exaggerate the fact that the shooters only have so much volume. To increase the volume of the finances to support a professional circuit or something like that, which will grow the audience, it'll be something for them to watch, then we need to get recruitment into the sport. We get to have more people shooting. So back to what I said a few minutes ago is the idea of having games and not this urge for competition. Certainly competition among yourselves, among friends and family and that, but just more focus on let's do it for the fun of it. And I think that we're just on the cusp of more exposure to these people that want to shoot, getting them involved, and then getting industry involved and all coming together to build. We could build the next NASCAR. We don't know, but that's what we're hoping for. Yeah,
you're talking about getting more, the people that go out of the sport, that many people come into the sport. Are we talking about the competitive side of the sport, or are we talking about the recreational side of the sport?
Recreational. We want people in recreational because there's far more of them.
Yeah.
There's more chance of that. When you look at it, what is it? What are the numbers again? About 22% of the people who shoot competitive shoot maybe 3 or less tournaments per year, and of those people, about 2% take it to the maximum, like the Olympic level, trying for the Olympics. So the Olympic ideal is a wonderful thing, but the economics behind it, I'm not so sure. So I'm really at the trying to get people into the sport, trying to get them watching it and going, wow, this looks like a fun thing to do. And putting down the joysticks and getting off their sofa in the basement and actually going out and participating.
Yeah. How do we get, because we talk about a lot of competition, of the competition side of it, not so much the recreational side, but how do we get some of those recreational shooters to come into the competition scene?
That really happens, just that's a human behavior thing, that people just are naturally competitive, and so I think that they would gravitate towards it. That's what happened to me, and it happened to an awful lot of my friends, that they'll go along, they'll just shoot away at some clays, hand throwers and that type of a thing. Then they want it more structured, so they go to a club shoots, and then before you know it, they're into tournaments.
Yeah.
But it begs the question, are tournaments where we all want to end up? Definitely that's what we need to have the big audience that I'm talking about, but I'm talking about for the average shooter. But one of the big things that I'm a proponent of is that I think that there are some marvelous shooters out there that nobody's heard of yet. They're probably in the duck marshes or the dove blinds of the U.S., and if we get them out, I think that'll be a wonderful thing to see.
Women are the same. I mean, getting women involved with the sport is really hard. I think maybe, I'm not speaking for all of them, but I think the majority of them are worried about the intimidation of it, and that's another area that we're lacking is having enough female shooters.
Well, that is a big factor, actually, intimidation. You can slice a golf ball, you can fluff a tennis ball, drop a football, but missing targets is a real dignity stripper. For some reason or other, and we don't know why, maybe this inbuilt idea that we should know all about guns, and that we don't, but there is intimidation. And my deceased business partner, Randy Gibson, and I, we spent about 26 years flying around the world designing shooting ranges for non-shooters. And one of the things that we came up with is, look, people are intimidated and they don't like, it's one thing to miss a target, but for other people to be watching you missing a target, it's as I say, it's a tough thing to do. So one of the ideas that we came up with was a 3 skill level idea at Sporting Clay's facilities, and they were landscaped so that skill level 1 was the nice facilities that make people feel comfortable, big enough for tuition for a coach to be on there. Skill level 2 and then skill level 3. Now, top shooter will stand in a hula hoop and shoot, so you just have 2 posts. Plus, they know all about gun handling, so you don't need to have the physical restrictions for the top shooters. Skill level 3. Skill level 1 was landscaped in such a way. And by the way, you use the same clay target throwers, same targets. You just use different angles and landscaping and planting to increase the level of difficulty. But the skill level 1, to reduce the intimidation, they were back and hidden behind trees so that people walking past could see the targets being missed, but not who was missing them. And so that made beginners feel a bit more comfortable. Plus, you need to soften the targets for beginners. They need to have some sort of success. And typically, if you go to a gun club and it's your first time out, you're shooting at targets that club shooters shoot at. And so, unless, of course, the facility has a dedicated area for beginners, which not too many of them have that, but in any case, that's the idea of some of the ways that we address the intimidation factor.
Attraction to Sporting Clays, I think, is a big deal. having someone attracted to it, or any other clay target sport. Is that what we're lacking? Is the attraction, the overall appearance of the sport may not be as glamorous as us, the shooters, may think it is?
Well, it's been called many times, and it's been said many times that it's sort of golf with a shotgun. But when you look at golf and you look how attractive it is, it gets back to the history of the lawn. Now, we did quite a bit of work with golf. Sometimes we'd put in a mini golf or 9 holes or something like that for multi-use facilities. And when you look at the origins of golf, there's much more to golf than just the tin cup, the flag, and the wee white ball. About 50% of it, in our experience, is the aesthetic. That takes us back to old King Louis, the Sun King in France in Versailles, where he basically invented the lawn, and they thought it looked good, and so it grew from there. And then nowadays we have people out every weekend mowing the lawn in front of their house because it looks good. Mm-hmm. And if you look at golf, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that we build golf courses and cover them with clay target debris. The average golf course in the United States nowadays is in the $8 to $10 million range. And in areas of course saturation, that very quickly becomes $20, $30, $40 million. The $40 million doesn't buy you a better golf course, it just buys you a prettier golf course. And do we want to go to that level? Well, the interesting part about the statement is not the numbers, it's the word average. Golf has an average. We don't have that. Over the years, I've had clients call with, $20,000 to build, the course of their dreams, and people with $20 million. So I say, if those are the ends of the standard spectrum, where's our average? And so I think that's where we have to look at facilities and just say, right, maybe we have to set standards, and in order for clubs to be included in certain programs, then they have to meet those standards. I know a number of years ago, a fellow I know started the Trident program, and the Beretta were involved with that. And they were trying to do the same as the sort of Michelin stars for restaurants. And it was a great idea, and I was fully in favor of it. It withered on the vine, but that's the kind of thing that I think that we need in order to make it attractive. But we're going to do a bit with again, movie, but also the television shows that are still planned, and to at least introduce people to the idea of trying it out. And but as I said, there is that large number of people who would love to try it, and so let's give them somewhere to play. That I know that the NSSF a number of years ago did a study, and they came out with this large number of people tried sporting clays that year, or they tried other shooting events. Basically, they tried recreational shooting, and it was an impressive number. But the real question was, okay, but how many of them actually took up the sport? Well, there was no big blip in the uptake of the sport, so it was just people trying it. And what, in my experience, has happened, you'll get someone coming along, and friends say, hey, come along, try this out. It's really fun, hang up your golf clubs for a weekend, try sporting clays. They do it, and they don't have a good experience, whether it's aesthetically or physically, because the gun doesn't fit, the ammunition's too heavy for them. And hey, that was great. I enjoyed myself, but I'll go back to my $20 million golf course. I don't like the sight of cardboard boxes blowing around. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. But that's what we're trying to say is, look, if we can increase the image of the sport, and the standards of the facilities have come a long way, let's face it. There's some really, really good-looking clubs out there, and I have to applaud the range owners who have invested in that, not only the money, but the time to do it, and they've got that creativity that it takes to build these. So we're certainly on our way.
So where do you want to see Make a Break in 5 years from now? What is your goal for that?
Make a Break. Well, I see Make a Break. It could be a standalone game. It could be a standalone sort of professional game. But personally, I see it as one of the games in a series. So to build that big program is what I would like to see, because I find that more attractive. Yes, you could have maybe 4 or 5 or 6 make-a-break layouts beside one another, all different. That would be good. But again, I just look at the video game world, and I know I keep going back to that, but it is such hugely successful, and it's run by the ESA, which is the Entertainment Software Association. They do a marvelous job, and I think that variety of different games, I think, will be great for attraction, but also as talking points, because somebody might be doing well at one game and not so well at the other. And then we're going to introduce different levels, just the same as videos and video games. Of course, the attraction in video games is to get to the next level. That's very well documented. That's the desire. I want to get to the next level, and so we're going to run it like that as well.
The video game aspect of it, do you feel that a video game for clay target shooting would be successful?
Oh, there's lots of video games for clay target shooting. In fact, I saw one for 5-stand a number of years ago. I don't know how successful they are. Are they as big as Duck Hunt? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're the game guy, so that's why I was asking, what's the next step? I mean, we can do it in real life, but can we do it virtually? Could there be like an iRacing for clay target shooting?
Right. Well, we are, without letting the cat out of the bag, as us old folks like to say, we are working on the program where you will be able to shoot a game, whether it's Make a Break or 5-stand, whatever they are, in Georgia, and I could compete against you up here in Canada.
That'll be neat.
And my daughter, she plays video games, and she competes with people from all over the world, and they'll team up. Actually, she was playing with someone from Florida just the other day. And so this is in real time. They're all playing together. So time zone permitting, you'll be able to play against anyone with real guns, real ammunition, real targets.
Raymond, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your knowledge. I look forward to what you have coming out, and I'm looking forward to meeting you for sure. I don't know that that'll ever happen because you're way up in Canada. Well, you're not that far in Canada, but you're in Canada.
I'll be down. Hey, I just look out my window here. I'm looking at Washington State. I'm right on the border.
Really? You're that close, huh?
I am that close, walking distance.
Wow. So where are you going to be next?
Where am I going to be next?
You said you're coming down. Where are you going to be?
Well, Ed kicks off in Florida in February, so if we can get everything put together, we'll be down there for that. We've, as I say, we're just doing the final testing on the new control system, and so that should be functional for Ed's entire season next year.
Well, good. Again, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to meeting you. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch back up with you here real quick.
It was my pleasure, Justin. Thank you very much.